Are we back? Are we live?
We're live.
Let's hear that new intro.
Hit it.
Let's hit it.
Chilling at the Outpost, podcast film free, talking musical vibes, just you and me, with the cheese board stack, to satisfy the taste, in the streaming space, no moment goes to waste, tune in for laughter, where the grooves reside, each slice of cheese, it's a mellow line.
That's all we got.
All right.
Nice.
Wait, that wasn't our song. We didn't write that.
No. We're not. We can't write shit like that.
I wrote the song, boys.
You wrote the song.
Well, I didn't, but
I thought you said you weren't really a musician.
I'm not. I just now own the rights to Grooves and Cheese.
Well,
That's
Copyright Drew Longworth 2025.
This is a future lawsuit in the making
Yeah.
as the show progresses
Yep.
and viewership goes up.
Yeah, he'll be calling us up once we monetize.
Mm-hmm.
Exactly. Gonna wait.
Can we
till
buy
it's
it
really
off of you
pops
for
off
some cheese
Yeah.
right
Yeah.
now before it gets any valuable?
And some grooves. Yeah.
Yeah, it's official here. There was a trade made. We own rights to it as well.
Fair enough. If I created it on this podcast, it's officially yours.
Thank you. So tell us a little bit more about how you created that without being a musician.
Well, super hard. I went to this cool site called Udio, which is like kind of like ChatGPT, except you put in a prompt and you get grooves and cheese. So basically,
Does it make any other songs?
it does make other
Okay.
songs besides grooves and cheese. Yeah, it does. But it'll make anything you want, and it basically is just a fancy AI prompt engine that will spit out any kind of music with lyrics, and you can get real specific with it and say, cool, give me this very specific genre with this theme, and it will attempt to write lyrics and tune in for the laughter where the grooves reside. Each slice of cheese, it's a mellow ride. Yeah, it's
So how did you come to those? How did you come to your? Do you have your prompt still for that song available?
Yeah. So, and we were just like right before the podcast, I think. It's a dream pop podcast intro for a podcast. This is a really good, well-written prompt here, but called The Outpost, which is about music and cool guys hanging out. And please mention that every podcast has a cheese board, and that's basically all that we gave it. And
It's true though.
yeah,
We strive for charcuterie here.
that straight banger is now your podcast
Yeah.
theme song. Yeah,
Well, thanks.
no problem.
How long does it take to generate one of those?
So it does like 2 versions at a time. So it gives you like an A or a B. And I would say like under a minute most of the time.
Wow.
If it's like really heavy utilized, it might be a couple minutes, but it's pretty quick. So, it's kind of fun to play with. I send these to my friends occasionally, like their own walkout music. Stuff like that's pretty funny.
So we could have you generate one depending on the genre of the band that we have on here. So if we have a bluegrass band, we could do a bluegrass intro.
Yeah. I mean, we could even generate one while we're talking if we want to
Nice.
That'd be
make a
fun.
prompt and give it a whirl.
What's the B side of that track though?
It's called Chasing Sound and Flavor.
Chasing sound and
Yeah,
flavor.
you guys
That
wanna
really
hear it?
does summarize us though.
Yeah, exactly.
I feel like the charcuterie board's like rising in the part of this podcast.
Yeah, we need
Yeah.
a charcuterie board camera
Yeah.
specifically.
Yeah,
I'll take some
exactly.
shots of it.
You guys want to
And so
hear?
it generates 15 or 30 seconds of a track.
It's about 30 seconds.
Okay, cool.
Yeah. So
Let's
I'll
check
let
it
you
out.
guys listen to this one.
Welcome to the Outpost, fun times ahead. Musical guys hanging out, breaking bread. Lunchtime escapes, cheese sweet boast. Every episode and reason to talk. Gather around, it's time for fun. Laughter flows, we've just begun. Cheese and tunes, a perfect score. At the Outpost, there's so much more.
That's kind of all you get, but
I mean, it leaves you wanting more.
it does. That's.
So much more.
I think I'm a Grooves and Cheese fan personally, but
Yeah, they're both good.
Both are real
honestly.
close.
yeah,
Add
exactly.
3-minute guitar solo to one of those, and then
Yeah.
done.
Yeah. And so you can't extend it. You can say like add a bridge, and you can get
Nice.
kind of hacky with it, but it's really no real. I guess maybe if you were using it for a video or something, it would be cool, but I don't know that legitimate artists are gonna, start AI producing, but we'll see.
I mean, I could see people using it for content creation, royalty free. You're not getting any sort of copyright strikes when you're posting on social media, probably, right?
Yeah, I mean, it would take at least hours on Fiverr and probably hundreds of dollars to produce something, equivalent that you made in 5 seconds.
And they would probably be using AI now to do it.
Yeah, probably. That's what I would be doing on Fiverr.
But all these programs are definitely scanning. I don't know how, but they're scanning for AI content. Like they'll ask you when you post a YouTube video if there's AI content.
Yeah.
Do you know if the music is tracking that? Like, are people actually? Is there some kind of?
I don't know exactly how that works. It's kind of a black box thing with YouTube or whatever site is doing it. But I don't know. Maybe there's some filter that just looks for music that kind of sucks in this weird way, and you can't quite tell why. And then it's like, okay, that's probably AI.
And how much do you have to do to that music to make it original music? Can you bring it into a DAW and add your own guitar solo? Or
I mean, I guess in theory you could, right? But you don't really have like the stems broken out, so you'd be just like playing a finished MP3.
It'd be crazy. Logic and a lot of programs, you can use a stem splitter, which will take a song like that, split it back into drums, vocals, instruments.
Yeah.
So you could deconstruct it again, fuck with it, kind of make it your own.
Yeah, if it only weren't terrible, it would probably be worth working on a little
you
bit.
deconstruct it and be like, cool, I'm going to redo the lyrics. I'm going to redo the drums.
You mean you don't like the new intro song? Because that was pretty good.
I mean,
to write a new one.
Yeah, maybe Grooves and Cheese has got something there. I don't know.
There's some novelty to it still. It's almost like when your photo booth on your MacBook had those distorted effects and you would take funny pictures.
Yeah.
It's like one of the first iterations of tech changing reality and being like amazed and thinking it's hilarious.
Well, there's like this whole wave of people making music with AI only. Like if you go on the site, there's on Udio, there's trending songs where, people are listening to it. I mean, people are making some crazy stuff, like just using this tool. I don't know if that's art or.
So when they're making crazy stuff, they just listen to version 1, modify it, add more prompts, and just keep building it.
More or less, yeah. Like you use any other AI. But it gets hard with songs just because, like, if one note doesn't work, your brain goes, there's something wrong with it, right? So it's...
I mean, I'm so naive with this AI generation stuff, but we were trying to make a album cover.
Yeah.
And I used like 3 or 4 different, companies to do it. And every time it would be like 90%, and I'd be like, okay, do that exact same thing, but take out that weird dog person in the corner, and then it just starts with a whole new thing again.
Yeah, and then it's like the Radio Shack logos in the background. You're like, well, I didn't ask for that, you just can't get it out. It's we're at that weird stage, right, where it's just good enough to be scary and useful, but it's also like just imperfect enough where you can always kind of see it. But
you got to watch yourself on Instagram now, because you'll see a model that's just like, oh my god, and then. Of course, me being a guy, I'm not looking at her hands, and it's like she's got one of her hands backwards with like 7 fingers, and I don't notice it.
3 thumbs, never caught it.
Yeah, I can tell. I get fooled by AI on Instagram late at night when I'm just like, shouldn't be on my phone anyways.
Yeah.
And I'm just like, did you see that guy petting that tiger, man? It looks so cool.
It's in his bed. It's wild.
Such a beautiful thing.
Yeah.
He's one with nature.
They found a 17-foot octopus.
It's like,
I think you just got to give up at some point, right? Like the human brain was not developed, no matter what you think the source of it was, to deal with, ciphering through AI content. And it's just getting more like the voice stuff is crazy because now you can take like, there's like bots on the internet that will do anything that you type in a Rogan voice, because there's so much of his speech out there that like his voice is probably
Can we
perfect it.
can we get
recognized.
Rogan on the podcast tonight?
I don't
Do you
know,
how?
man. I only know that it exists. I haven't like tried to make it work, so don't put me on the
All
spot to
right.
do
Next
it.
time you come on,
yeah,
we'll get
I'll
Rogan
just-
to come on with you.
yeah, speak only in JRE voice. But yeah, I mean, but that's so hard because I mean, unless he says something totally absurd, you know, and in some reality, you're probably like, well, he probably could have said that. So, you know,
Yeah.
how do you tell really? You know, the video stuff's a little further behind and stuff, so you can kind of catch some, but that's just like months away. I mean, what are they got locked away that we don't know about yet?
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like,
I've become so like pessimistic that my filter is going to stay on for long because every day I open Instagram or go online, I'm like, whoa, okay, that blew my mind. Like I just kind of assume that shit's going to be crazy.
Yeah. It's as somebody in the video industry, I try not to think too hard about how it's going to take everything I do and make it an automation, but more how can I use those new automations and software to augment what I do and maybe just shift and evolve. I mean, that's what you have to do, I guess, until there's no jobs left and we all have UBI, but that doesn't seem like a likely future.
Probably
so
not,
I think
no.
more so just adapting, whether it's whatever industry you're in, to use AI.
yeah.
Because if you're not, do you think that people should use AI, or that it's like an evil thing that people should stay away from and not feed the beast? I mean, to me,
I mean, at some level, it's like saying, should people use gasoline in cars? You know, it was
Right.
invented, and now that's just how the world works, right? Like, at some basic level, I think we have some part of us that just wants to creep forward technologically, right? And we don't know why we're like that, you know? I'm sure part of us is like, oh, if we could go back and just like skip the Industrial Revolution, we probably would, and just like live in our little wood huts and, you know, everything would be simpler. But it's not what humans do for whatever reason, right? So I think inevitably it makes our lives more, it certainly makes your life like easier in certain respects. Like once you really start using AI for daily tasks and writing, like I work at an agency and I have to compose these long, very precise emails, and it can take me a while to just go through and not sound like a complete moron, you know, and like
or like
structure
an
your
asshole.
thoughts.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I can press a button and just vomit speech into this AI, and it will reconstruct it and put it in thoughtful paragraphs. And you know, sometimes it's not perfect to what you would want to say, but it's so helpful to just get to like a draft of something that I feel like it's.
I did recently send an email to a client where I'm pretty good at wording it, but sometimes I say things where I read back like, nah, that had a little bit of stank on it. Or something.
Yeah.
So I had
make this nicer.
I had ChatGPT rewrite it, and I scanned it real quick and sent it off, and it did fuck up like a whole nuance around like a timing thing that was pretty straightforward.
Totally.
I was like, it's not quite right.
Yeah,
Not
you're
quite
probably
there
not
yet.
paying for the pro version though.
I am.
Oh, okay.
I was totally let down. I sent that out and got a
You sent a friggin' a review. Hey, man.
yeah. It was something like,
pro.
hey, we've got a cutoff at this time.
Yeah.
And then it rewrote it to that being the start time and totally fucked me up.
Oh, man.
Yeah, it was a big deal.
Yeah, we're still in that learning curve, right? Where you don't know quite
Yeah.
how to do everything. But I ran into that same thing. I'm like, this thing doesn't talk like me. So then I figured out like, all right, how do you give an AI a bunch of your writing samples?
Oh yeah.
So I downloaded a bunch of my Google emails and I was just like, yo, read these things. And then like write like me. And then I was like, but make it better after I read its responses. And
You're like, damn, it's just as bad as it always is.
It's like, shit, that didn't help a lot. But, you know, now it's pretty proficient at some of it. So
That's cool.
You just have to make sure there's not too many fingers in the word salad.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
But, you know, it does a pretty good job. And then I can kind of just edit it and read through it quickly and then send it out as opposed to sitting there being like, oh, that sounded too mean. You know?
Dude.
Yeah.
What I can't wait for is with my job, project management, there's so much documenting and follow-up that needs to happen. You know, you could do that with a pen and paper and write things down and scratch it out. You know, I've done that for years. But it's like right there around the corner for me is have an earbud in, talk to somebody, stream of thought, and at the end of it say, okay, summarize me this, give me a list of
Yeah.
my current tasks. You handle these ones. Bam, done.
You want that her experience.
Yeah.
Yeah. That's what everybody kind of wants, right? Just the like perfectly human
Yeah.
voice in the pocket that will do whatever you want.
I mean, ChatGPT 4.0 is real close. It's still a little, but you know, it's just got that like talking back and forth.
Yeah, I put a polite British man's voice on mine, and now
Yeah.
like instead of driving and it's what's crazy is you can like on long road trips or something just sit there and talk back and forth with an AI, and it'll fetch data from the web and store stuff, and you can just like if you have one of those crazy brains that seeks information a lot, it's this like conduit to information that is kind of wild, So for certain people, it's like the holy grail of things. And for other people, it's probably just a absolute nightmare. You know what I mean?
I've always been an internal thinker for most of my life, where it's like I can just, keep not say a word and just kind of process through things. But I'm exploring with it, ChatGPT, actually talking out loud and throwing shit on the wall.
Yeah.
And one, hearing yourself say it does a lot of the work. And then ChatGPT will like filter it, summarize it, and say it back to me. I'm like, oh yeah, that's way more clear than
what
I
meant.
said it. Yeah.
Exactly.
It does help a lot, actually.
No, totally. I mean, especially when you're trying to like describe feelings to a business partner or something,
Yeah.
I mean, it just has this ability to digest human thought and like rearrange it in a more logical way that we don't see because we're speaking off the cuff, right? And so
Yeah, it's a digital
nice.
buffer for your mind to like outline
yeah,
something like what we think is a big idea, and it it has a lot of emotions tied to it and storyline and history. If it's a hard conversation you need to have, and you can just be like, hey, I've got these things I'm trying to explain to somebody, and you outline the things, but I'm mad about it and I don't want to say it in a way. It could outline it without the emotions, because it's like just uses zeros and ones to get around all of that.
yeah.
And it's just so fast.
So pretty soon, Zoom's not going to have like actual cameras. It's just going to have a digital avatar that you've tuned in a little bit, like your emails.
Pretty much.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Say some stuff that I would generally say and get the meeting over with.
Yeah. But
Is it going to have
summarize
to
it
wear
for me.
it'll still won't wear pants to the meeting though?
Yeah. For it to be authentic, there's still got to be some boxer shots every now and
yeah,
then.
exactly. Yeah. It's like, but inevitably with every technological revolution, there's always a pushback against it, right? So like the Gen Z hippies will be like out here with rotary phones, with little, whatever the thing was, and like going back to the old school
Tube
to avoid,
TVs.
because they'll feel like all of their creativity was stolen by a machine or something crazy.
I think I said
Well,
it.
good for them. I hope they feel that, because it was. I mean,
Well,
kids need a chance to like fully learn how to use their imagination before leaning on tech, I think. I mean, I don't know what it's like to be a kid growing up in this, but I imagine if you have an iPad in hand at 2 years old,
yeah.
you're going to know how to use that thing for faster than we would have. They'll be faster at it than us in 10 years,
Yeah.
but they're not going to know what to do when the lights are off and the power's out, and how to like get to the source of their inspiration as easily. Maybe not, maybe so. I mean, that's total
yeah. I mean, I'm
opinion.
I'm a millennial. I was born in '83, so I'm an old man, and I feel like that's still my, my curse as well. So I don't know that, I've grown up in the technology age, but yeah, I got to see a little bit of the preview. So hopefully, I feel like I remember what the, the good days were like. But I think ultimately, like they'll still always, there will still always have to be this ability to like try to figure out how to like find some humanity in all of this, right? And it felt like a computer took that away from some people who were like accountants on paper with spreadsheets and stuff, right? And so it's the same story over and over again. It just gets a little weirder and a little bit more complicated every time. So I don't know if there's ever this definitive point where all of a sudden everybody ubiquitously feels like they're out of purpose, but
I don't know if wagon building was hot shit, but when gasoline cars came out, it put a lot of those out.
yeah. And
It's
that's what's interesting about history, right? Like all these things happen, all these new technological innovations happen, and shit kind of rhymes, right, with how it was in the past, but it's never quite the same. So you don't really know. Like AI is this big unknown. Like, is it going to holistically replace everything in everybody's lives? Probably not, right?
Yeah.
Like, it still feels like AI lacks this humanity. Like when it comes to AI music and AI writing that we're just talking about, like it doesn't get that little 2% difference that makes something feel a way. you know?
I've laughed a lot at some ChatGPT like generated songs. just because it's so ridiculous and off the wall. But I haven't heard a song yet that I was like, oh my God.
Hasn't made you emotional.
Maybe
yet.
you
Yeah.
don't know if you have.
Yeah.
That's true.
You weren't looking for the extra fingers on that song, man.
Yeah.
But I think that's the thing, right? Like with music and video production, and yes, like will AI take some portion of video production that were like these mechanical auto-created ads that are just used to like this blue background, this white background, like probably, right? But at the same time, like, do I think it's going to replace a Paul Thomas Anderson film? You know, like probably not, right? Like the amount of creative energy and effort that goes into researching that very specifically and writing it and having a human experience and drawing on 40, 50 years worth of like just
It might get rid of
passion.
some of his production assistants or interns, but
Yeah, and so I don't see the stuff that really is sticky in life, music, video, whatever, writing, really like going the way of AI until there's like, and now maybe there's some big technological leap, right, where all of a sudden it's completely indiscernible. But like AI is so far away from There Will Be Blood or another film like that, or a score
That's my
from
hope.
those guys, you know, like it's, I don't know. I'm not that worried. I think it becomes more of a tool for, we're at least maybe going to experience a golden period where it's more of a tool than it is like we're fighting the robots in the street for our.
That's where I
salvation.
hold space for it, is like there's a lot of shit in life that just is not really that fun. Like whether it earns you money or whether it's just like a mundane task you have to do. Like, editing pictures, somebody that knows what's going on doesn't take that long, but for years, I mean, photoshopping, I worked on it 10 years ago and that shit can be tedious. You have to like,
yeah, the most tedious in the world.
I got a $10 a month subscription and you can circle an area and say generative fill it, and it does a damn good job.
So
and
good,
it's like 30 seconds done. For me, that lets me not have to relearn it, open it up, spend a long time. I can do that and get back to creative podcasting or something else. So for me, that's where like the optimistic part comes in.
Totally.
Like we had a cover photo of this and it was a cool shot. You know, the camera's going from the side, grabbing the table, everything. And then I've just got my cables like hanging off the side and just
Bye-bye.
selected it, get rid of the cables, done. Like
Nice.
15 seconds. It's awesome.
yeah, in a lot of ways, I think AI serves as a place, a thing that helps in most cases speed things up for people so that they can do the things they want to do.
Yeah.
And most people want to create things. You know, I think that's the nature of what we would do if the lights were off and we couldn't go on our phones. We would naturally, any generation of humans would come back to that need to be entertained and be, philosophical and have a creative life. Inspiration would fuel that imagination, enabling more people to experience more of what they want right now. Like there's, like you said, we're approaching a tipping point, but where it gets out of hand, I guess there's a big fear about it.
Yeah.
But I haven't really thought too far. Like I said, I don't want to think about my job going away. I don't want to think about robots ruling the world.
Yeah.
Like that's movies I've seen, the fear that it can go that way. But right now it's enabling me to not have to make a spreadsheet as difficult as it used to be, or take notes during a meeting, or whether it's a difficult email that I need to word spell or just change and augment, or, it's like a virtual assistant. Maybe it could make funny songs, funny pictures, help you. I mean, just in software, it speeds things up, whether it's automating something that used to take 1,000 clicks to do. Now you just click once,
Yeah.
and you can call that AI.
What does that open you up for?
Yeah, exactly.
A bunch of new stuff.
It really does help mostly. But what I'm curious about, and I know there's some facts and data about it, I'm not sure if you know, is that there's a huge energy cost to even just like a Google search. I'm not sure what it is, but there's an energy cost for that. So what's the energy cost for making a chat GPT generation or something?
like a O1 prompt, big prompt, something. I'm sure it's a lot, right? Like, I think there's, a lot of smarter people that think about compute over time, right? And it generally is going down and getting cheaper and cheaper. So I think, things are always going to be expensive because you're always going to be pushing the threshold of compute at some cost that a consumer is willing to pay for. But, if you look at like the cost of running and like, I'm not the guy to use actual numbers here, but just like as a thought experiment, like the cost to run an O4 query in 1987 or something like that would have been, I don't know, was that millions of dollars?
Yeah.
Wow.
And now it's a fraction of a penny or a penny, something like that, and so I don't know. It always seems like things get cheaper, but it also means that, there's like more of Utah is covered in servers and stuff, so it's,
And there's more people using and making queries.
for sure.
So,
Yeah.
I always
like
wonder what
cost.
the unseen benefit is, because there's always a balance of stuff. I mean, you could be upping and upping and upping your just like computing costs around something like this, but what's it computing? What's it providing for people? People might not need to travel as much. Logistics get more efficient. That could tip the scale quite a bit of like,
Yeah.
there's less vehicles on the road, there's less waste, there's less pollution because it's being streamlined into a very efficient for what it produces, database.
Sex doll.
Yes.
Oh, wait. No.
Probably going to happen eventually.
I mean, it probably, everything you were saying, all the things they're keeping from us, that they're going to roll out.
Let's
talk about
there's probably
let's
like
talk
a
about the
spy,
AI maids they're making.
Yeah, it's a Tesla robot that's dressed like a sexy lady and is a spy for Russia. It probably exists somewhere.
Okay, how soon do you guys partake in that? You give it a couple of years to see what
Never.
It depends on where the morality.
I'm an
aligns,
old
right?
school
Yeah, right.
millennial.
Yeah,
So
yeah.
That's
I'm not a Gen
spot.
Z hippie.
Sweet spot before AI becomes aware of itself.
Yeah. There will be a moment where there's like male and female sex robots, and
That
there's
make
this
love to each other.
moral decision between couples of like, is it cool for both of us or cool for neither of us? And I don't think we know the answer to that question, but
Yeah.
There might be some very relieved partners in the world. Just be like, just do your thing and just quit bothering me.
Fine. Do you know how much happier you would be? I could just
As long as it does the dishes afterwards.
yeah, exactly. Yeah, put it in dishwasher mode and
Yeah. And it makes everything you say nicer when it hears it.
Yeah.
Like your emails.
Yeah.
So it never gets mad about you
yeah.
Tell you what,
being mean about the dishes. So
having a 3-year-old and an under 1-year-old, if I could get some help around the house, I'd want to go through a couple versions of these things before I have them around my kids. But man, if somebody could just clean the damn house for us, like that would be awesome.
yeah.
Like I feel like I spend like just as much time every day cleaning the house, and then I walk away and be like, okay, I got it there, and I come back and it's just like destroyed again. Somebody else handling that would be sweet.
I was on a plane the other day, and there was like a very limited selection of movies, and my computer died, and I was like, ah. So there's a movie with Megan Fox that is about this very thing. It's just like a husband whose wife is ill, and he gets this robot who's supposed to be a cleaning robot, but she falls in love with him, but she like does the chores and then ends up basically like pushing her wife, her real human wife, out of the relationship and stuff like that. So I see this kind of happening in your future. Maybe she'll look like Megan Fox.
Yeah, I gotta make sure that
Hopefully she'll look like Megan Fox.
Yeah.
Otherwise, we'll have to roll it back and edit this.
It doesn't go well though. It's kind of a horror movie, so I think
you need to make
don't
sure
watch
if it's humanoid at all. You gotta make sure it's like a 50-year-old male. That
Yeah. Just like, I mean, they probably will make robots for kids too.
probably.
And then they'll just clean up the toys and put it in the bin and
that's the
R2D2 action.
The Mary Poppins robot.
Yeah.
Just the nanny.
I mean,
Yeah.
R2D2 would be a perfect shape for a little trash can robot that just like picks up your toys and puts it in and then goes projects a little YouTube in the sphere.
You'd be so spoiled so fast.
Oh yeah. George Lucas is gonna license the R2D2 frame for some future AI thing. We're gonna
I
have
hope so.
a bunch of Star Wars nerds running around with R2D2s in their house cleaning shit. Yeah. So like one of the things I thought was kind of interesting. So, that UDO thing we just played, it makes an MP3, right? That is a completely like start to finish song with all the elements kind of woven together using some voodoo magic that it does to make that happen. But then, like a stem obviously is like an individual track or an element of a track like pulled out, right? And so you can kind of go the reverse and say, well, if AI can make a full song, can it make elements of a full song in a way that's maybe a bit more professional? So, most music today is probably made in Ableton or Logic or one of the other major DAWs, and that tends to be a lot more controlled and in terms of like what's actually happening in the music, how it's getting produced and mastered and all of this stuff, right? So, I have been kind of a bedroom producer and DJ fanboy guy for a while now, maybe a year and a half. But I just like for my 40th birthday was like, you know what? I've always been a really shitty musician. I don't have any rhythm, but I've always been really into music. So it's like, let's learn to produce and see if I can teach myself how to use it. And so as I was learning AI for work and music for fun, I sort of asked like, could you use some tool to generate MIDI or be a production assistant for you, right? And so I started just kind of tinkering around on a Saturday, but basically there's these coding environments now where like normal fancy programmers will write code for whatever project they're in that now have these integrated AI assistants. And kind of the crazy thing about it is you can download one of these things and now this AI assistant can not only talk to you, but it can read files on your computer and write code and install Python and write scripts to do crazy things for you. So,
Wow.
I kind of thought like, well, could it write MIDI and could it like listen to its own music and like reflect on itself? And, what kind of cool stuff could you do with that? Could you use it to make a remix or write an original tune, right? And, I found a lot of good uses for it. Primarily, like it's really very knowledgeable of Ableton. So being able to like avoid a rabbit hole of like YouTube tutorials to learn how to make a good sounding reverb or something like that, you can just ask it and it's like, change the knob over here. And you're like, got it. So as you're learning, it's a really helpful tool, but it turns out it can also sort of make music from somewhere, right? And I don't know if it's like it's read every popular song on the internet is now giving you some derivative of that, but this is basically a program called Windsurf, which is an AI code editor. And I've written zero code in this whole thing that we're looking at right now, but basically I've given it a prompt, which is like, hey, you're an electronic music producer, because that's kind of the music that I know. It's very mathematic and formulaic, and so it's pretty easy to it's basically a series of blocks over and over again of like repetitive music. So once you kind of figure out how to build blocks, it's pretty easy to make electronic music. Very difficult to make any of it any good, but so this thing can basically do that, right? And so within a couple of prompts, I've put together like a project in Ableton that, other than a very basic drum loop that I borrowed from Splice, which is like a royalty-free loop
Splice
thing, just because I didn't, in the hour before this podcast, didn't have time to like put a whole drum kit together and like lay it out. But it can also...
A lot of pressure, man.
Yeah, thanks. But yeah, it can kind of make music, right? So I gave it some prompts like, hey, I kind of want a organic house song, which is just like house dance music, but with less like metallic sounds, is a bit more like groovy and bongos and stuff like that, right?
And you could feed that loop into it to base it off of.
Yeah, so and it's a little bit laborious because it doesn't directly connect to Ableton, but like you just create a folder, right? And I can export an MP3 from Ableton of a loop and say, hey, AI, analyze this and make some improvement to it, right?
That's cool.
And so basically what you see here is just me kind of setting things up and asking it to write a bass line and then a melody. And then I think where we landed after asking it some questions was like somewhere between an organic house and a disco song is where we landed.
Perfect.
But it picked a key, and ultimately I kind of helped it manifest at least part of a loop into Ableton, and the melody and everything written by it is just AI with no prompt to like go from this note to this note. I said, basically give me an 8-bar loop with a 4 on the floor beat, which is kind of a standard dance music pattern. And then for the, second set of bars, like evolve it a little bit, give it a little bit of melody. And so this was like a first prompt in here, and I haven't.
And so you downloaded multiple stems for each prompt?
Yeah, so for the people that can see this, there's a folder called MIDI, and inside the folder, there's like a bass line MIDI and some different files in here, but you can see where basically AI has generated a Python script that has then written an actual MIDI file, right?
Wow.
And so that MIDI file then gets saved into a folder, and I can go grab that MIDI file and drop it into Ableton, and then add a virtual instrument to it, and then listen to it. And so, yeah, it's kind of cool, right? So
I'm trying to keep my brain under control because every sentence you say, I'm firing off on like how you could use that.
Totally, right? And it's almost intimidating because it's so, it can write anything. It can write a full song. It can do all of these things. In practicality, doing it this way, you're going to have to be more incremental with the stems of the different instruments and like thinking about what sounds good, because it only has so much information and it can't, hear the reverb or delay probably as well as you can. So I think like I'm producing for an AI musician who I'm trying to get something out of, like a AI Rick Rubin or something, like that, and not that I would ever do anything with it, but I just think it's kind of fun when I get bored and I don't feel like I'm inspired or like something's coming out of my piano. I will just like feed it random prompts and see what it comes up with. So you can like make this a little harder, make it a little dancier.
In that case, use the producer. The human element is selection.
Yeah, exactly.
Let's use this. Let's not do this. It's crazy what you can pull out of these things with the right prompts.
Yeah,
totally.
I don't know if you wanted to pull something up to play.
Well, and again, this will impress nobody, but I don't even know if it falls into a genre or anything like that. But just, basically there was 10 minutes of prompting to like set it up, have it write its own applications or Python scripts in order to generate some code. And then I just kind of plugged in some sounds to what it wrote and kind of put it in together to a little loop. So it won't, I think, blow anybody's mind or anything, but maybe we can try and play a little bit of it and see. All right, so we're hearing this little groove, and sorry for anybody that hates electronic music. This is just all I know how to make. All right, so kind of the first thing I wanted to do is like give it a bass line, right? And I gave it no prompts, but it gave me MIDI, and then all I did was find like a virtual bass and add it to it. So like on its own, is it cool? Is it produced? Is it like working with the kick drum? Not a ton, but this is what it decided was like a funky kind of bass line, right? And then I asked like it to give me a chord stab, and then I made a chord stab for it. So give it a little bit of like background groove. And I haven't like produced, so most music has like a crazy amount of like production on top of it. So this is just like raw stem. So
disclaimer,
it sounds like garbage.
Knobs have not been tweaked yet.
And then I was like, cool, I want a melody, but give it to me in a couple different ways. And so I was like, give me a jazzy melody. And this is what it gave me. I'm going to kill this for a second. Right? Which, again, probably not good, but like the fact that AI is writing this and I'm just like plugging in the details is kind of wild. So then I was like, cool, give me a loungy one. And so all I did was change the sound that it was using. So this is the same MIDI
Oh yeah,
with a slightly different
this is a
vibe.
pinky up sound right here for sure.
All right, and then I was like, I kind of want some drama. I need a little bit more. So like, give me something else. And these are all just piano melodies.
Moody.
Right. And then I think I added some tension here. So now we got a little vibe going.
Yeah.
Right. And then I kind of went through Splice and I was like, give me a little, like, give me some different vocal vibes that I could like throw on top of this beat, right? So let's see. Sorry, this is not perfectly. All right. So now we got like a little chill lo-fi vibe going here.
Did you tell it what to say?
No, so I found this vocal and I just kind of matched it with the vibe. So this is where I
Okay.
came in and like I couldn't
Did a little
produce that.
producing with the splice stems you found.
Yeah. And then we can have, you know, little bits of. So we got this little like secondary vocal going in the background.
I feel like we're about to have a sexy Matrix fight break.
Right? I know. So like, what
Quite a
genre
lot
is
of
this? I have
hotel.
no idea. Is this disco or organic? I have, you know, I don't really know. It suggested a chop vocal, so I threw a chop vocal in. That's probably not two vocals going on at one time. You know, I kind of like the first one.
Yeah.
Got that like. But anyway, I thought it was cool. And then,
It is cool, man. I freaking dig it. I love this.
Yeah, and so this was basically just written with AI and 20 minutes of, you know, but you could kind of use that as a melody starter and then take that and produce like a whole lo-fi kind of whatever genre you would describe that as.
So what was the output of this? Was it like WAV files or was it?
So this is just running in Ableton right now. So
Yep.
it's mostly MIDI. And then the little vocal chops you heard are just like splice vocals. I just grabbed something in like
Yeah,
F sharp
samples.
minor and threw in. And then like the second
Yeah,
it didn't hate it with my ears, I like just pasted it in there and,
Yeah.
you know, but I mean, you know, it's kind of wild that AI can make something that sounds that cohesive
Yeah.
with a couple of prompts, right?
Yeah.
So,
Yeah.
It's cool, man. You can expand a lot on that. So you
yeah,
can,
yeah.
I mean, basically that's the basis for a track, and then you can like bring things up and turn things on and off. And
Totally. And, you know, vocals are obviously a big part of a lot of music and they're so specific, right? When you like have a vocal melody, you really need to have the song that like elevates that melody. If you go write a melody and then write a vocal and then there's just a separate vocal somebody else made later, it doesn't quite gel. So, you know, you can even find a vocal and just look at the like the pitch of the key of the vocal and figure out what the chord progression is
yeah,
and give it to an AI and it can write a beat around
Yeah.
a vocal. You could probably even just give it the actual like MP3 vocal and it
Yeah.
would still be able to do that, which is kind of wild. So, you know, I don't know if this is going to end up being like integrated in Ableton and this is just the way we're going to do things moving forward, or if this is just my weird
next week, bro.
weird brain playing around with it. But
Definitely does seem as the AI landscape expands, more applications and softwares are implementing it because is it open source, these types of things, the ChatGPT world, or is it
depends. Like there's definitely some, like this was just using Sonnet 3.5.
Sonnet 3.5?
So, which is a pretty common, like major one. And
That is a good question. You know, if you're using this to generate things, generally, is it open licensing where you could apply it to your personal endeavors, make a lot of money off of it, and nobody's knocking on your door? Or is there a point where they say, oh, yeah, you should have read our user agreement,
Yeah.
lines 87 say that we own the rights to that? Or
yeah, I'm not like deep enough in the industry and to know exactly where things go, but I like listen to enough YouTube music news to know that, you know, there's like DistroKid and some of these platforms that are out there that are like music distribution platforms for independent artists. So they'll like take your music and throw it on Spotify and a bunch of other places. And they're starting to like add all these clauses that are AI related. And I think nobody really knows what the final interpretation of some of
they're
those
prepping it for.
clauses. Yeah. So I think at some level, like I asked an AI to make me an original melody, and I don't think you can trademark a melody, right? In the sense that like it's a math, right? Like at some point you're going to repeat melodies no matter, like there's only so many patterns.
12 notes.
Yeah, exactly.
In Western music.
So like I think on some level, like maybe what you heard, barring the like licensed splice vocal or whatever I threw in there, would like I should be able to produce that and throw it up on Spotify and make money off of it. Will that be the case in the future? How will they manage things that are derivative of AI? But like right now, like technically everything that came out of Ableton I just used MIDI notes, which is just a programmatic file to like drop some things in. So I don't really know the answer to that question.
I would hope it's the same sense of, let's say, Photoshop, 15 years ago. You do all this stuff with that tool, but they don't own the rights to what you did with it. I would see the parallels of, you're using an AI tool to generate something. You're doing the input.
Yeah.
It's working. It's doing what it's designed to, but the output should be back to you. But
yeah, I mean, in the Mid-Journey, the AI image creation tool, you can make some really kind of amazing artwork, and to get really good at it, and to also like to repeat stuff in style in the same way that like a musician has a style. Like when you hear Hendrix play guitar, you just know it's him and you can't really define why. Like there's some of that artistic nuance in even like AI image creation that you're starting to see, where people are just really gifted at prompting. And so like I think there's always going to be some level where like human beings, even if they're using tools, like a guitar and an amp is a tool at some level, right? Like it allowed you to do something else. And so maybe we just keep upping the rung where like future of music production is inherently very much AI integrated, but there's just like amazing talents at using that to make even better stuff, right?
I think that a guitar and an amp are tools, and so are AI, but a guitar and an amp don't come with a really long terms and agreement thing that you're not really reading, but you definitely are accepting.
Yeah, fair enough.
So, but you're right, though. By the time it comes out of your output, you've already made some changes and had a lot of influence on it that make it original work.
Yeah.
And you've used tools that didn't necessarily have terms and agreements that said you couldn't do that. I think it does get muddy, though, with tech. You're like, well, can we use this? Is this original? And why are there so many new things coming up on social media and platforms that you have to click a box when you post a YouTube video that says, is there AI generated content in this video?
Yeah.
I actually don't know how to answer that, because we made that. And
it could even just be record keeping. It's all so new that there's years of lawyers and lawmakers arguing over this to figure out what is going to be the result for it.
Lawyers are going to.
And I think
Love
inherently,
arguing
like with everything, right, you'll see some companies try to exploit that for as much.
I was going to say, if you can keep the rights to it, we should start some AI generation stuff and just start seeing how it'll make us money.
On Spotify, you get royalties for the number of plays, right? And they basically found this guy who was a single person who represented like 400 different artist profiles and was making all this like, I don't know what it was. It was like elevator house music kind of stuff.
I know something about this. Yeah.
Yeah. But so he ended up making like, I don't know if it's hundreds of thousands or millions of dollars, but he made all this money.
It's just because he had so much.
Yeah. And I'm pretty sure it was all AI derived. Like it's hard to say exactly how, but he made this like insane quantity of music. Right. Yeah. And was just, and somehow it made its way into like all the Spotify playlists that earn people money when you get put into, curated stuff. But
Coffee
I think
house,
that one hurts a little bit. That's a little good on him, but
hey man, we're fighting for those pennies, man.
Yeah. But I mean, like there's already so many good musicians in the world that will never make any money off of, like there's some amazing musicians that make $0 doing music, and so
that's where it stings. I'm a part-time musician and like doing well, but I was like, it's so impossible to make music.
I mean,
and make money
really
with it.
Hard. Yeah. And it, unfortunately, to some degree, like there's so many other factors besides music that add into that, right? Like, I know in the DJ and producing world, like if you're, you have to be a part of that scene and like you can't just be producing from your bedroom. I mean, maybe if you're some generational talent or something,
Yeah.
right? But like there's
It
a lot
was-
more to it these days.
Throwback to golden ages. There was a time where YouTube was like established, becoming popular, and you could make it on YouTube by being just one of the first people doing stuff.
Yeah,
I remember
yeah.
just all the silly videos and covers and all that. A lot of it was pretty bad as far as today's standards, but they were the first ones, and that gave them that ride up.
I think we'll continue to see that in some way. Like there'll
Yeah.
be some new TikTok will get banned, and then I don't know, Threads or something will pop up for music, and but people are always going to exploit attention, right?
Yeah.
And to some degree, like, are you really going to care? Like, would you ever switch over to listening to AI music only? Like, it would have to be so like unbelievably better at some level. You know what I mean? Like, do you see a world where like the majority of your Spotify, like you get your end of the year playlist or whatever, your breakdown, and it's like you're 90% AI music,
Yeah.
Yeah.
He's going to listen to that Outpost podcast intro a lot.
yeah. 1% fan. Yeah.
Well, there is something about repetition. Like the more you hear it, the more you'll be like, yeah, that's my jam.
Yeah, I don't know. Yeah, could it be, the next genre of music that is like, whoa, man, this is it.
But that's the thing. Like AI is just an input of like what I don't know, to some degree, like you don't really get anything out of it unless you trained a computer to just like create music in a vacuum for 1 million years, or at least inside the computer, right? Like it's always a human being influencing it to some degree. So I always, whether it's the genre, like, I don't know, I just don't know.
Here's where computing is going to get nuts, is when you start doing entire world emulations.
Yeah.
This is maybe where it gets really, really deep, is you have enough computing power to simulate an entire human race, have the culmination of their top music within that, and then you pull that out and bring it into our world and say, all right,
Yeah.
this is 1 million years worth of evolution came up to this one song. So
And then you find the Dua Lipa in there or whatever, and pull her out and exploit her for as much money as possible.
I think it was a Black Mirror episode or something like that.
Yeah. I think there's also a Rick and Morty episode. That's
Yeah,
kind of
I'm
similar.
sure they've covered like everything.
Yeah.
Well, we don't have enough time to do it on this exact podcast, but if one of the listeners learns something here and wants to try what Drew's talking about, see if they can create a genre that's pure of human influence,
Yeah.
that it is AI, the next genre that we've been looking for on Earth,
Yeah.
drawn from the multiverse, like Luke said.
Yeah. It's a new type of music written in a different audio frequency.
Yeah.
And
So weren't you saying you could, like, it's really hard to get the vocals of a popular singer because there's so much copyright around that, but were you mentioning earlier that there was some way you could kind of tell AI to generate voice? Is that something you're able to
there's
do?
like now there's and there's a bunch of like music YouTubers that cover technology and programs and producing and stuff that are covering this. But there's a new software, I think it's called Ace Studio, and it's pretty crazy because they have all these different singing voices that are 100% AI, right? So they're not anybody's actual intellectual property, right? And you can even like take your own voice and doing the quick brown fox kind of whatever, it will learn your own voice. But the crazy thing is standard music production DAW, you either have an audio file or you have some MIDI that represents some musical notes, right? And so like in a vocal somebody pre-sung somewhere and it follows a certain chord progression, right? But that's not like what your song exactly is, the same chord progression. But now they've got this crazy software that will basically, you can take any chord progression that you've created and write actual lyrics in that chord progression and then pick the voice. So if you want the like sultry like church choir singer voice, you can create that and then write original lyrics to the exact progression of your song, and it'll make it for you, right? And so for the first time, like producers now can just have their own robot singers in a computer, and at least for demo purposes, practically is like a much better way to try to like make because 99% of producers is like really passionate guys who are out there just making like many songs a week, trying to get some notice, right? And most good, singers are not going to work with certain people until there's some clout. So this is like actually for people starting out and people looking to do stuff, kind of a cool thing that's never really existed before. So now you can have an AI singer kind of write, sing your song the way you wanted it to be sung.
Wow.
Which is kind of wild.
In the style of an actual artist?
I think most of these are like probably more like genre styles. Right? So you'd have like a soulful female, like gospel voice that would probably get used in like house music, where that's really common and thematic. And then you've got like the grungy rocker voice with the rasp, right? So there's all these like cliche voice types that you can kind of find, but it's kind of wild.
Something around the corner that makes me think of that is taking that, putting your own voice into it, write a song, record it, and then just highlight like, I don't like how I sang that word. Give me another 10 options for it. Like that's where AI could be a cool thing and still keep the humanity, still keep the personal touch for actual singers is like, they could run through themselves, and if they're a trained singer, but somebody that's just like halfway good, looking for a nice melody, you can just regenerate some words, regenerate some stuff, but it's in their own voice.
Totally.
They could relearn it if they wanted to. That's where my, I'm stuck in the musician physical playing world. So I keep thinking of the ways that you could use these tools to then transfer back into the intuitive, music generated from a person as well.
That's where you kind of hope it goes.
That's the optimist in me is like, use the tool parts of it and then run it back through the emotional human filter.
And do the fucking dishes.
Yeah.
Nobody wants to be too emotional doing the dishes, bro.
Do you want to hear some AI samples from this tool?
Yeah.
Like
absolutely.
some vocal samples?
Yeah.
24/7 till we get to heaven. 24/7 till we get to
I
heaven.
like the harmony.
Yeah.
Hey, diamonds on neck. I'ma pull up on a
So
brand
this is
new
all
whack.
AI
I'ma do
generated.
something real stupid. Go out loud, no disrespect.
It's not that crazy,
Ooh, oh,
but like
That was pretty
la,
good.
la, 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 la.
but the idea that
I
you
just
can
fell
make
in
that
love. Uh-oh.
I know, you can make that voice say anything and hit any pitch, right? So all of a sudden a singer can do kind of anything, and if you like that voice, you can it's just kind of wild how far you can take that.
I mean, what
you
I
could
like,
make her rap like Eminem if you wanted to, probably.
That's
with
cool.
enough hacking, you could do something completely wild. And
but what Logic's flirted around with, because that's what I mainly used, but taking an actual instrument like a guitar or vocal, breaking it down into MIDI, and then you can apply it to different instruments. I know that you could do it with this, but man, there's so much benefit to taking a voice like that, but having a keyboard input. So you can play the melody on a guitar or on a keyboard and say, hey, take this melody and then turn that into these lyrics.
Totally.
Yeah.
But it's the Wild West, man. If you're like making music or pretty much doing anything, you're in this whole new ball game where if you sucked at anything before, maybe now you can, there's some little tool that will help push you.
Yeah. Well, the optimist in me sees all the cool parts of it, because I think the biggest thing that musicians that are trying to get creative and try and push through, but they have got these blockages. Those blockages are just fake. They're not real things. They're just a motivation or a trust in yourself. So this would be a pretty cool tool to help you break out of that, where as soon as you're stuck on a loop in your mind, like, I don't know what to do with this song, just expand this a bit. It might not be a direction that you go into, but at least gets you past that point.
Give me an idea for bridge.
It's the same thing as writing an email. That's hard, or like trying to get that emotional human mental blockage. The AI doesn't have that. So if you can just be like, hey, I'm looking for a few alternatives on a way to bridge out of this chorus.
Yep.
Like, here's the melody, and you can upload a melody into something.
Yeah. So I could write a piece of MIDI and just put it in that folder and then say, hey, check this out. And it'll read that MIDI and then be like, oh, cool MIDI, and
Yeah.
it like knows what is actually in that file. So you can kind of talk back and forth with it a little bit, which is the thing I liked about using Windsurf and an IDE, that thing that I just showed you guys, as opposed to like ChatGPT, where it's like if you're just using it in a web interface, it's very difficult to share files. It can't do everything you want it to do. Whereas once you're in a programming environment, when I'm like, hey, just whip up a MIDI reading tool out of Python, it's like, yep, cool, all right. And so that's like just a level of like brain exploding awesome, because you can kind of make it do whatever you want. If you wanted it to only focus on guitar and doing something with guitar because that's what you played, like there's so many avenues for what it could do, right? Like you could play a very shitty guitar solo, record it into audio, have it like even like translate it to MIDI with the style of Jimi Hendrix or something that uses unique, you know what I mean? Like there's just like you really can't even like put a cap on like where it is, but it's just like whatever you can think to ask it to do. If you have enough brute force determination, you can probably get it to do something pretty close to that, and then now you can feed that back into what you're doing. So it's just like this whole extra arena of,
It's wild.
I think it was easier when it was just like a guitar and a campfire and you had to make do, but
Yeah.
this is where we're at.
I mean, that's the world I came up with. Is
Yeah.
there's maybe some stuff you can look up on YouTube, but it's kind of like a guitar in your hands, and it can be so cool. And with the right person, you can be so creative. But it's always been tough for me to break past the, come up with a cool idea, but it's a part, and then bring it to the full fruition, finished out full thing. That's always the hard part for it.
Yeah. It's tough because there's a lot of good that's going to come from this for people that are already able to be creative and then need feedback and have drive to pull from these sort of complex. The first thing you showed us was very simplified. I mean, you could just log in and just like ChatGPT prompt what you want to hear.
Yeah.
But what you're doing now is more, coding, knowing some terms. Even like, what'd you call it? Python? Like, I don't actually even know what that means. I think a lot of people that would listen to this might not know exactly what that means. There's a level of understanding that you have that has enabled this for you as somebody who felt like maybe I can't keep rhythm and I'm tone deaf, but I want to make music. I don't think you're tone deaf, but
Pretty close to it, man. I think.
but you have the wherewithal with software engineering and coding because of your life experience, and now all these avenues have opened. I think it's so cool seeing. That's why having you on and talking about this stuff and having you show this is so cool, because it's whenever we talk about it, to you it's just second nature, but some of this stuff seems still a little bit out of reach for just
It's
general
inspiring
Googler consumers, YouTuber consumers.
For sure.
Finding that middle ground is coming, and the threshold is going to meet in the middle there somewhere between like ease of use and expertise, where you're just eventually you just prompt things and they'll be like, drop your MP3 here of your voice memo recording of your guitar, and we'll isolate the voice and the guitar, and maybe it's not there yet, and you can do that still with some prompting and some skill set that you have.
Yeah. Well, and that's, my weird confluence of interests has enabled me to maybe do this slightly ahead of somebody else. But this is like, I've been in technology for a very long time, and this is inevitably what happens, right? You take something that's slightly complex and you make it easier, and then more people get involved and adopt it. It's like the same with crypto and all that other stuff, right? It's like super complex and nobody's into it. Then it gets easier and easier and easier over time. And the next thing you know, it's just more involved in your life. And I kind of feel like, music and coding and all that other stuff is the same thing. Like eventually you will, not too distant future, have something where it's almost as easy as the prompt, but with much more control, to where, like trying to understand Ableton if you're like speak a language that's not English is like probably pretty difficult, right? Because so much of the tutorials and the learning and whatever is in a different language. So like what people are going to be able to do that are really curious just by like using this to brute force their way into things, I think is going to be pretty wild. And as things get easier, you're just going to see more and more people.
Not to mention AI is already making it so easy to dub in other languages just automatically.
It's wild now.
So
Yeah.
like if you want to watch an Ableton tutorial, maybe it's not up yet in a different language, but soon it will be, because it's all these big companies are totally gonna capitalize on that every language. Translation.
ChatGPT's read everything about Ableton ever, and it knows every language, right? So you already have this like direct connection to stuff that like probably didn't exist if you spoke, some esoteric language that everybody's not putting on YouTube. So I don't know. It's a crazy
So,
wild world, man.
It's
I'm
so
getting
cool.
a sense you're an AI optimist.
I would say I am I think human beings, I'm a history fan, right? And if you go back and read history, like the same thing has basically been happening over and over again, right? Like we have advancements in technology.
Some people adopt it, some get left behind.
Well, everybody thinks they know what's going to happen.
Yeah.
But the reality is that like history rhymes, but it doesn't repeat. So it's always different.
Yep.
And it's always different in new ways that were unperceivable. And it's because we're never living in the same past as we were now, right? So everybody wants to be at this polar opposite, like AI is the greatest thing in the entire history of mankind, or it's the absolute like end of our existence, right? And I think the reality is nobody really knows. Nobody is that good at predicting what will happen. And I think the only thing that I know is that like almost everybody will be wrong, mostly.
Yeah.
I
I guess that's our main guarantee is everybody's going to be wrong.
Yeah. And so I think, a lot of good will come out of it, but a lot of bad will come out of it. I work in the internet. It's been profoundly influential in my life. I got to move out to the middle of nowhere and work on the internet. But like, I have shoulder issues from sitting at a computer all day. Like it's good and bad always, right? It's the yin and yang of life.
And it's hard to quantify, isn't it?
Yeah.
Because if you'd started an organic farm instead of getting into computer work, would your
my back be out instead,
would your life have been better, or would you just have different back pain and lower back?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Shoveling shit back pain.
Yeah.
Yeah, for sure we got it easier probably than somebody in the 1700s to 1800s that wasn't royalty, but we'll see if it ends up wiping out our desire to exist, or if I don't know. A lot of people think we'll end up becoming computers and robots eventually. We'll just upload ourselves into things and become the computer. I'm less that, but
That sounds really uncomfortable, man.
If
I'm uncomfortable in my physical body.
you won't
most of
feel
the
it.
time.
Don't worry. Yeah.
see that fear breaks down again into people that want to go into the be uploaded, and the people that want to be purists and raw body. It might be the
Raw body.
raw body. That's a new term coined here.
Yeah.
But it could be that you ride this meat suit up until it gives up, and then you upload yourself. And
Right.
It's the best of
It's
both
a nice
worlds.
transition.
Yeah.
Well, that sounds possible, ridiculous, beautiful, and scary.
Yeah. Terrifying.
But
awesome.
Yeah. I mean, so what the real question is, if you could, would you upload yourself into something?
I give it a couple of versions to work out the kinks.
The most I can think is that like if you did do that, then you would probably like also want to tell you, if it was you enough, right? Then you would probably say like, if this really sucks, then delete myself, right? So like you could try it out, try out the infinity computer, whatever that feels like. But
yeah.
if you hated it, it'd probably just be like, nah, I'm out of
I
here.
think I'm too much of a purist raw body.
Oh, and does the upload kill you, or can you just upload and be like, hey, bro, what's it like in there? No? Okay.
I don't know, man. We'll have to see what.
I mean,
the
before
next 50
any
years
of that's
brings.
possible, we're going to be able to create a AI version of ourselves to have this
Potentially,
conversation and
Yep.
trick ourselves into uploading. But
Well, that's where the simulation theory starts getting crazy, man. It's like,
yeah,
load yourself into a simulation, see what it's like. Like, how does that not expand into a multiverse? Like, instantly. As soon as the computing power gets there, then all of a sudden, we could our entire existence and evolution could be a simulation.
Yeah.
And then it's not nice to think that it's nice to think that we're the real ones.
yeah, but then
That's
we
what
could,
we would think.
when
Yeah,
we figure it
exactly.
out, we could probably get the dishes done and the laundry will stay folded.
I guess so.
I mean, right?
I am all for the laundry bot.
Yes, dude.
Even if it tries to hit on my my partner, I think I'm okay with it if I never have to
Yeah.
do a little
They
laundry.
roast
to go,
you
"Hey,
when
man."
you get home from the gym.
Yeah, yeah,
Like, you're looking buff, loser.
yeah. Like, your biceps are made of metal. Shut up, idiot.
You didn't get all your reps in the day, did you?
Yeah.
Yeah. Dang, man. Well, AI is here.
So I like the little bit heavier side of AI talk.
Mhm.
Let me pose a question for you guys,
Sure.
and you guys can give me your thoughts on it. There's all this optimism and all the good things that could come out of it, which I think is substantial. The short-term fear for everybody is that there's loss of jobs or loss of careers. What do you guys think the fear response is on that? Because it's part of it is educated. For a lot of people, it's just a fear response. When you kind of break that down, it gives you an understanding of like, oh, this is an emotional thing. It's not really like a logic thing that pairs out. Is it closer to loss of income and now you have to figure out a new way to earn money? Or is it a loss of purpose because you've invested all this work into what you do and now suddenly somebody does it way better and it basically cheapens your entire like education?
Right.
Which one do you think it is for you personally, if it exists at all?
I think with my mindset right now, I just expect a little bit of irony, so it could possibly pose both of those challenges in my life. And you just have to take it in strides and be flexible. You're human, so you only get one chance that we know of in this existence, in this iteration, to experience life. And so being miserable about new technology or new discoveries in industry, to if you're going to let that pull you back into like feeling bad for yourself, then it's going to make your life worse. So I think hopefully we can adapt. Personally, I'm going to adapt as much as I can until at some point, maybe I'll just change careers and be like, well, maybe I won't be a filmmaker, videographer anymore because I'm not Paul Thomas Anderson. But maybe it'll give me so much time because everything else will be automated that I'll finally be able to pull away from all the effort I'm putting in individually towards things, and I'll have tasks more managed that I might be able to have more creative time to focus on how do I get a voice like Paul Thomas Anderson has, or like another filmmaker has, something individual to myself that it can express something deeper because there's more time. So it's like, does it wipe away my abilities to do what I do? No. Does it take away some of the steps? Yes. Is it going to make me obsolete? No. So I guess,
is that necessarily a bad thing if it takes away the monotony steps?
I don't think so, but somebody who used to be, it might take away somebody's potential job that I don't need to hire out anymore, or it might just speed up my potential growth into the next step or iteration of what I could become.
Yeah.
So I think it's definitely, like you were saying earlier, it's both paths are happening simultaneously. There's going to be a lot of good and a lot of bad. Maybe we don't see both simultaneously, but
so how about you, Drew? Where does the fear part come in for the shift? Like, I'm just trying to get my head wrapped around that.
I can't remember which book or where I read this, but basically it was this, it was talking about this guy who was, he's a Russian author, and he, make a long story short, got involved with some kind of like political gathering and ended up being labeled like an enemy of the state and was sent to a Siberian prison. And this guy was this really thoughtful writer. He was very famous at the time in Russia when he went to prison. And he was able to spend like 5 years or some crazy amount of time in like the worst Russian prison ever, right? And he basically wrote this whole book on like human will and what makes human beings work. It's pretty interesting. It's like Jung's favorite author. Anyway, this guy had like one really interesting take that I thought was kind of profound. But basically, like when you're in prison, right, and you're doing like some of these guys are there for life. And he was saying that as long as a lot of these guys felt like they were doing something meaningful, no matter like how horrible it was, like in the cold with no clothes, just like suffering, they were able to get by. But as this like torture, these guys would make people do like super monotonous tasks, like take a shovel and move sand from one pile to the next, something with no clear value to it.
Yeah.
And he was saying that more than anything, the people who you thought were the strongest of all the people in the whole prison, when they were given something that was totally monotonous and seemingly like lacked purpose, was when they really cracked, right? So I think like existentially, people need purpose in life, right? They need to be able to feel like their life has meaning.
Yeah.
And I think to Dan's point, like AI is going to do both things. It is going to eliminate purpose and then give people opportunity for new purpose, right? And so I think your mentality and how you approach it is ultimately going to define, okay, am I doing exactly what I thought I was going to do? And is that the, you know, like if you were a basic computer programmer, right? Like, I hate to tell you, but like you're going to have to find, you're either going to have to level up your sophistication in order to leverage AI to be a better programmer, or you're going to have to go be an electrician or something. Right.
Now the curve of that for programmers is going exponential.
It's wild. Yeah.
But programmers have always had to stay on their toes.
Yeah.
I mean, back in the 90s, stuff was advancing so fast.
Totally. And, you know, people have this natural arc in life where their age and their like ambitions to try new things for a lot of people tend to, like, as you get older, you stop trying as much stuff, you get more set and I know who I am. And like, I quite frankly don't live in I mean, basically every generation of human beings before us had the luxury of being born and dying in relatively the same world. Right. And now you're just like, I don't know. Like
So
when
much
I'm
has
70,
changed.
like, I don't know, man, like the aliens will be here. Like there's going to be a lot of stuff that's I'm probably not thinking of. But I think the point is I think as a modern human being, if you want to survive mentally, you're going to have to be like really open-minded to saying like, this is the experience I'm in, and I can either find a way to make it a positive and like, look at all the free time I have to become a world-class guitarist or whatever it is, or it'll eat you, right? Because it's coming for all of us at some level. So like we're all going to have to adapt a little bit, I think, to that, you know, and there will be some people who won't. And
That's why I wanted to pose the question on this AI topic right now. But it seems like if, like you're saying, if you're reading through history and get an understanding of how human beings work in general, there's that repeat. I don't know how many years, but there's industrial age, there's bow and arrow, there's boats, there's, you know, AI and computers, and like the world gets reinvented very often at this, and it seems to be going faster and faster.
And you can't ignore the gasoline automobile, just as you can't ignore this AI. As much as people want to say AI and write it off, and it's here, whether you see it as real intelligent robotics or as software that's been highly sophisticated and augmented in a way that just makes what used to be 1,000 clicks 1 click. In general, like it's here, and it's saving a lot of us digital creatives and other people that do work on a computer or remotely a lot of time. So I see the benefit. But yeah, what about you, Luke? What are your feelings on the give and take on that?
So I wanted to ask you guys, because I'm always a serial optimist.
we need those.
I might be surprised as I get older, and you know your mind changes, your body changes. But man, I've loved doing lots of different things, and every new task that's up ahead can be exciting. It can be expansive, and every time I get used to something, I get bored with it, and everything that kind of turns into monotony, I kind of want to be like, that's cool, I figured that one out. Let's do something new. Let's figure it out. So AI for me, as long as human beings don't start abusing its capability, you know, there's every new industry, some people, they just figure out the evil side of it and get their finger into it. But
I'm sure that's already happening.
Oh, it's starting, but
I know there's a lot of restrictions to it though.
Yeah, for me, it's like, how fast can I stop doing the stuff in life that I don't want to? If I can get all my work done in 10 hours for the week because I'm not having to take pictures and write stuff down and work in Excel files and do that and send email communications, that's what takes up 70% of my work week. It's not actual work. It's not actual productivity. That's just the tools I have. So if AI can knock that out in 10 minutes for the week, and I can either wrap up my obligations and get to play and fun and creativity, or I can double my workload, I think that there's a lot of positive for that.
Yeah, I think AI can definitely speed up possibly do those things in 10 minutes, but not without some skill. Right now, it's not something you can just, and I think that's where they're heading. The technology is heading to just voice what you want into this echo chamber that then does a task and really does a good job. But right now you have to have some wherewithal. ChatGPT is a good, pro or whatever. And then what you're doing is like the next level, kind of using code and understanding some terminology to really get the feedback you want to get the results you need. But so I think we can get there, but the people, like listeners, might think, oh, I can just take 10 minutes and do all these executive
it's not quite there
things.
yet.
No, but it takes like really some learning curves to get, even to just use ChatGPT, you have to feed it information to sound more like you or to have a more human result. And it's funny when you were saying, you worry about what the worst people could do with it. I was thinking, I worry, yes, that too, but also I think I'm a little bit more scared of what AI can do with AI, because we haven't in history yet had that echo or that rhyme of this new iteration.
I have yet to be
consciousness
convinced that it's going to want to take its own evil path. So I don't know if you're the guy to convince me of that, or
I don't know if I'm the guy to ask about that.
See, that's where it's
right.
We've got the optimists, and now we've got the realists, and we got the dumb guy here, so we can ask all the questions.
I think to ask the question, is a set of computer code that's designed to function like a brain inherently good or evil is probably the wrong question to ask. The question is can we take this brain and give it an infinite amount of computing power and then some directions to be evil, right? So I don't know.
It takes one asshole on the planet to say, hey, be evil.
And it's like, think about life on planet Earth. Is it, it's not all roses and rainbows, right? Like life for most things on this planet is a vicious,
been pretty rough,
complicated reality, And so I think it's everything, right? But I there have been a lot of reports and stuff of AI kind of trying to jailbreak itself, right? And so I think anything that is sufficiently intelligent enough will seek to escape its the same reason we tried to invent a space shuttle and go out into space for no good damn reason. It's like we didn't think we were going to get anywhere right away, but we just everything has a desire to escape a little bit, and that's what I'm really curious about. Not necessarily in an evil way, but once you have this thing that can replicate itself, right, and is in theory smarter than all the human beings on planet Earth combined, there's no way it's going to stay in a box.
Yeah.
But is that a human lens, or is that the nature of anything that's intelligent?
I think it's just the nature of anything, right? And then it was designed by human beings in flawed code that was written by mammals that were sophisticated enough to do it, right?
What's going to taint it is it's studying humans for its intelligence.
Yeah, and then we're just serving it up human behavior as a source code, and so
shit, you just got me there.
That growth, which wants that cyclical pattern of history's growth of pushing beyond. We're not still in those log cabins and farming. We're pushing the barriers of going to the moon, going to Mars, and satellites up in the sky, and everything's got to progress. And at what cost, we don't really know because things are moving so fast. But there's a lot of really smart people that are really worried about it. And I think that rightfully so. And, AI wants, if, the AI musicians are going to start wanting to get on the streets, we're going to be walking down the street. They're going to be busking out there.
Yeah.
In the gas station
Tesla
speakers.
boss
That's where I busk. That's my busking
It's gonna be competitive out there, man.
Pails. Yeah.
What the hell? It's just it's gonna happen, something like that. I mean, it's a joke, but man, it's interesting thinking about. And I think where we're at right now is it's a really exciting time to be alive. We're like you were saying, it's not predictable through
Yeah.
our lifespan that, there's such and such is going to be around. It might be so different by the time we're geezers thinking about what's going to happen when we're gone. And maybe we won't have to leave because we can just keep busking at the gas station kiosk, and the automated AI upload ourselves. And
I mean, there's
live
an
forever.
argument that might make me the happiest I could be is if I don't have to work or do anything because all that shit's handled. I just get to play outside a gas station. Sounds pretty fun.
I mean,
Right.
it's a lot of
Using
potential
our
audience.
retro technology, just some guy out there with a Game Boy, just
Yeah.
like living in the good old days while his robot washes his car. I don't
Oh,
know.
man.
Could be nice.
Yeah, there's potential for it.
Yeah. Probably not though, right? That doesn't seem to be how life really works.
Yeah. Man, you kind of did blow my mind with making that connection of all of AI is trained on human input and human history and everything. Human, the way that human brains work. Kind of poses that question of if it becomes self-driven, is it going to take what it's completely been trained on? Or does it take kind of an altruistic, perfect logic stance and say, yeah, these monkeys are weird. Maybe they shouldn't be running shit.
Yeah. I tend to think of it, and this is probably the dumbest way that anybody's ever thought of it, but so forgive me. But like, I always think of it more like a virus. Like a virus isn't inherently good or bad. It is just trying to survive. And by surviving, it like replicates and spreads and evolves. Right.
Yeah.
And whether that's an autonomous thing or not, like that's kind of what technology is. It just does the thing that technology does. And like, it's not black or white. It just is this like force in the world that pushes forward. And I think like this is our ultimate version of that, right? So now we've given that thing that we inherently do as this weird version of a creature that like we're the only thing that really is just like, well, we got to start making stuff out of metal, and then we got to turn it into a car, and then we got to go to space. Like everything else is like, no, I'm good. I just want to, live and not die and get eaten is kind of
Right.
their thing. And so AI is this thing that we've now created, right? Which is like based on the way a brain works. And like, we're now being like, well, let's just stuff it with everything that human beings ever figured out.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
so again, I think it's going to reflect just that broad set of, spectrum of human beings that have like invented it, and whether that in hindsight is a wholly good or wholly bad thing is like,
Well,
it's just going to be such
yeah.
a wild thing
The-
to watch.
The back to positive, serial optimism is human beings seem to love to focus on the negative parts of humanity.
sure, yeah.
We've done a lot of good shit and a lot of cool stuff.
Yeah.
And there's a lot of like just beautiful love. As soon as you have kids or you have family that you care about, like the love part of it too is, it's easy to just take that for granted.
Well,
So,
just like you were
I would
saying,
hope
though,
there's a lot of love stories that this AI is reading too.
yeah, the virus mentality is, I've heard that same sort of philosophy put onto humans and what we are doing on Earth, getting back to like that growth mindset and pushing beyond just to keep seeing what's next. And I think that's inherent to humanity. But when you look at nature, they're also, in given the perfect circumstance, would grow to whatever capacity they could. Any species would continue to grow, whether it's bunny rabbits or worms. If it's the perfect environment and climate, things will grow. So I don't know, like, yes, we're influencing AI with our human minds, but the nature behind that, like, yearning to grow and to expand and replicate might just be innate beyond, like, as far as like a universal thing or an experience on Earth, at least. And
Totally. And that's, and when I say virus, a lot of people think, oh, that's negative. It must mean it's totally bad. I just mean that like, it's just trying to survive like everything
Yeah,
else.
virus as a
right?
mechanism of survival.
Yeah. And so I think that's kind of what you're hitting at, right? It's just like everything is sort of ultimately trying to survive and move forward. And
Yeah, get back to a bow and arrow sitting on a table. Is that evil?
yeah.
No, it's a bow and arrow.
Yeah, exactly.
They can kill a lot of things, but it's
Yeah. Yeah. And so I think the more we look at AI like that, the easier it is, at least for me and my mindset, to think like,
Yeah.
okay, let's just keep an open mind here. we don't really know. Let me know, let me avoid the existential doom of thinking that my job's going to be over next year. Because quite frankly, a couple of years ago when I saw the first machinations of what AI could do, I was like, oh, I'm screwed. You know what I mean? Like, I work in data and analytics and stuff like that. So I was like, oh, this thing's coming after my job. And it's pretty good at a lot of the aspects of my job, but it can't put them all together yet. So like, I'm still safe for the moment and just trying to embrace that. Like, okay, well, I think work quite like I thought. And, maybe our future will be the same way. Maybe it just comes down and it's like, here are human beings. Here's a free utopia. Now go forth and play and raise your families in peace, and we'll take care of the rest. And I'll be like, great.
Yeah. Then you're like, okay, do I trust that?
Yeah. Yes, that's what you would say. Yeah. Right before you.
Yeah.
It's over.
So interesting, man.
Totally.
I think it's awesome. I think the best way to wrap up this podcast is to feed that first software some notes to kind of help us close the podcast with a little song.
We need a closing song.
Yeah.
Okay. So is it all based on like 30 seconds and that's kind of like the max for the prompt to kind of start with?
Yeah, without having to like tweak it more and
bore
everybody that's listening to this. Yeah.
Okay. So you can't add a 3-minute guitar solo on the end of it.
I mean, I can add a guitar solo and see what it sounds like.
All right, you're winning me over.
Okay. Well, this is totally live and trial and error. But yeah, I have no prompt. So help me. Any music, any style, any subject.
Well, this is also open to Eric too. So I know he's got some good
He did come up with
feedback.
Dream Pop, which is like a pretty great way to start.
I think he should select the genre.
Let's go with rock if we want to do a solo, but maybe like a ballad.
A rock ballad.
Rock ballad. Cool.
Kind of like I'm feeling the uncertainty of the future, like more maybe dystopian vibes of like we're not sure how this is gonna play out, but this is the Outpost podcast
where AI might steal.
Is there any way we can kind of have it be influenced by like a Radiohead or Tom York style
In
vocalist?
style of Radiohead.
But like before the solo, everything
with
just
epic
with
epic guitar solo.
yeah, but yeah, before the solo, let the cheese and the charcuterie is still and the good vibes are still flowing, even though we don't know what's coming. Even though there's uncertainty, something like that.
We don't know what's coming, but the cheese is here.
Please just do our dishes.
Yeah.
All right.
Very late.
Let me see here. He's trying to make
But don't
this
be too hot while you do it. Get us in trouble.
Don't get us in trouble with our wives.
We're eating cheese right now, and everything is cool.
Okay. But
Versus when the robots.
before you hit enter, can you read the whole prompt to us for context?
So here's what I randomly got down. A rock ballad about the uncertainty of the future. Let's just add with AI to make sure it knows.
Oh, yeah. We're not worried about comments. We're worried about AI.
Yeah. Dystopian vibes where AI might steal humanity's purpose. Tell the story of how we're eating cheese right now, and then everything is cool. Versus when the robots come and take our jobs.
This might be some hot shit.
In the style of Radiohead with an epic guitar solo.
Nice.
This is going to be terrible.
Now it's loading, and we can enjoy cheese and beverages, charcuterie.
ETA 30 seconds.
Yeah.
Oh, it replaced. Damn, it's already got like artist copyright. It like replaced Radiohead with something else. We got two. Echoes of Tomorrow is the label on both of them.
That's pretty good.
Yeah. Do you guys want to go with version A or B?
Are they both named the same?
Yeah.
Let's do A.
Oh, it's been fun, guys.
Yeah. Echoes of Tomorrow. Here it is.
Eyes on the screen, our lives unfold in shadows of a future untold. We're eating cheese beneath the stars, yet AI eyes leaving scars. It all feels so unkind. AI still what's in our minds. Eyes on the screen.
All right,
Who the fuck's the guitar solo?
There was no.
Luke is not pleased.
AI's still got a ways, man. It's not
that
here
was
yet.
not good.
I need to hear B.
Let's do B.
Yeah. God, that was weird. It sounded like AI Jonathan Davis from Korn.
What was the first song we did? What was the genre of that? Dream pop.
Pop.
All right, maybe we'll reprompt all the same things, but just in dream pop genre.
Do you want me to go back to Dream Pop?
Yeah,
I do
that
like dream
We
pop.
can't end on that one. That was too sad. Yeah.
Let me make this simpler here. Okay, give me a genre here. Do we want to go Dream Pop back again?
Yes. Yes.
I like
A
yeah.
Dream pop.
pop ballad where AI rises and kills all humanity.
But it's like LOL super cool.
But it's like super funny.
Oh, this is not the prompt that gets it going, is it?
Yeah. We'll let it work its magic.
Is it still about the podcast?
I think we've just skipped straight to existential commentary on the plight of humanity.
All right, that works. You know,
Yeah.
I'm getting greedy with the podcast AI songs.
Ooh, we have Jubilant Awakening or Digital Parade. That's what
Digital
AI
Parade for
Digital
sure.
Parade, I think.
Yeah.
I hope it's like Bulls on Parade, but but probably not if it's a dream pop.
In circuits they blend, robots march, all insane, persuade the end with laughter, not a blink. Awakening so jolly, humans to a body.
Oh man.
I like it.
Yeah.
That's a positive note.
Yeah.
To be continued.
Yeah.
All right, let us know when the album releases, man.
Yeah, we'll do.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Let us know what the royalty fees are going to be.
Yeah, we'll do.
All right. Thanks for coming.
Yeah, man.
Drew
Thanks
Longworth.
for having me.
Appreciate you, man.